Good morning. Thank you for coming. The information that I'm going to share with y'all today, you're not going to hear anywhere else, unfortunately. And I think that I probably have the information because I have such a varied practice that I'm seeing it from so many different locations that I'm putting the pieces together in the puzzle. And, you know, I work with everything from crawfish to agriculture to cattle to people, horses, cats, dogs, you know, the whole 9 yards. And so when I started seeing these things show up, and so this is our cue to turn our cell phones off. Thank you so much for sharing. There we go. I was waiting for somebody to give me that opening. Thank you ever so much. So because I've seen it so much across the board, I started putting the pieces together. And this has actually been transpiring over the last month. So we're talking about something that is absolutely right now happening. And we have some solutions. And I'm also going to share with you some techniques on how to check and to correct. Because this is going to be an issue. It's already an issue. It's going to be more of an issue in the fall. And the reason being because of the problems in agriculture. When that produce starts hitting the stores, that's when we're going to have the perfect storm on it. So you need to know what to do and how to handle it. That way, you know, your loved ones, your friends, your clients, whatever, can benefit from it. All right, so everything is a power problem. Polarity is all about power. And I have been in practice now for almost 30 years. And my original dissertation as a naturopath was electromagnetics in the human body. And they had to actually go out of college to get somebody to be my what do you call it? No, not mentor. When you no. When you take your dissertation and you have a committee that, you know. Yeah, for my doctorate, yeah. So anyway, they had to go and bring in physicists to do my evaluation. So that was okay. It was good. I had like 10,000 case studies that verified the electromagnetics in the human body. And so there was this big blow up, you know, in the early 90s, you know, with young living oils coming in and this frequency for that and that frequency for something else. And it was all over the dadgum board. And so it's like, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard in my whole dadgum life. Like if you have an outlet over here, and everybody has an outlet in their house in multiples, if this one is 110, and this one over here is 220, and that one back there is 80, no, that one back over here is 60. What do you think is going to happen in your house? You're going to trip breakers, right? Might even have a fire. You know what that's called in the human body? Illness. I see very, 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 very few functional issues. I see innervation issues, meaning the current is never even turned on. And you're sitting there changing the light bulbs on the lamp and complaining that it still don't work. Feeding a dead horse don't make him any better. And the only way I see chronic issues is if it has been down so long that you have tissue deterioration. Then you start seeing that. Tomorrow's medicine will be in that field. I promise you, as sure as I'm standing here, that's what it's going to be. Continuity of circuit, that's what we're talking about. Left to right, front to back, top to bottom. Well, let me tell you what has been happening. There have been people who, for years, I've checked polarity, as God is my witness. And I would have people lay on the table, and they'd put their hands like this. I said, no cheating. And I'd make them, you know, because you want to see real. You know, you don't want them crossing. And so this gal come in that was having all kinds of female issues, and she was a young girl. She was terrified. You know, her mama made her come, and, you know, I must have had my mean face on. And so this little girl was terrified, and I was checking polarity and pulses in her feet. And I happened to just look up and see she had her hands like this, and I'm going, no cheating. Well, I had already checked polarity. And then she unfolded her hands, and it switched, and I'm going, whoa, wait a minute. That was not an accident that I missed that. And so I started checking everybody, and everybody had it. So I had this gal come in, a very devout woman, prays all the time. She came in, terrible gut issues. And I said, well, let me guess. It got worse when you prayed. Her eyes got big, and she goes, how did you know? And I said, I'm psychic. And so we balanced her polarity, and once we got the polarity balanced, she no longer hurts, because pain only exists where current doesn't flow. The angels said, I've heard the angels since I was 4, they have said that the current flowing through you is God. The only thing you can do without it is die. So guess what? If you flip that equation, the only thing you can do with it is live. The body's designed to heal itself, bar none, without exception, all the time. You don't get up in the morning and go, my heart work now. My lungs transmute oxygen into my blood. No, that's all bull. It handles it all on its own. So we take advantage of that. So polarity is the first thing I check on everything, whether it's a project, whether it's a person, whether it's an animal. It does not matter to me, because it's all about, is the power on or is the power off? That's all I care about. I have people come in, well, do you want to see my lab work? And I said, absolutely not. Because when you get the power on, you're not going to have the problem. So why do I want to manifest that again in you and curse you by repeating what they said you had? Life and death in the tongue. This is what I have been finding with people. This is absolutely an issue. In 2018, the planet switched from Hertzian to scalar, and the angels have said no one alive knows how this body's supposed to work, which means that we're going to figure out how it's supposed to work. They wouldn't say it unless we were going to see it. So everything that we have developed to this point, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's herbal, whether it's anything, your devices, what have you, they've all been designed for a Hertzian frequency body that is about to not exist anymore. I have had all kinds of issues. Matter of fact, I worked until the night before I left doing emergencies. I have an emergency practice. It just seems like that's the way. People come to me when nobody else can figure it out, and I don't mean that in an egotistical way. It's actually quite sad. So everything that gives us trouble loves acid. And so everybody and their dog is having trouble in this zone. Cardiopulmonary nerve, heart, lung. Lots of issues with the pulmonary artery. And that has to do with how do I receive in the world. That is a huge thing. And when you're one polarity top and one polarity bottom, absolutely, you have electrical current stored in your cellular memory and your cellular structure, that when that power is no longer feasible to take in as nutrition, basically, the body starts using what is in the cells, and that is called aging. That appeals to me, as a matter of fact. That appeals to me a great deal. All right, so in this situation where you have negative, negative, this person is sick as a dog. It's just like years ago when that whole thing about people's frequency being one thing or another. In the 90s, they were saying 60 and 70 megahertz was what people needed to run to be healthy, yada, yada, yada. And it's like if I saw people who were running 60s, 70s, and 80s, they were sick. So I don't know what health is supposed to look like, because if it looks like that, I don't want it. In the 90s, if a person didn't run over 100 megahertz, they were not healing. They were maintaining. Now, if you see somebody who is not over 500 megahertz, they're only maintaining. And they're going to lose ground because the planet you're standing on is going scalar. So unless you make the switch, your battery's going to run dry. And that's called death. I'm not overestimating and being, sensational. It's just the way it is. So what you want is for your body to be scalar, positive on all parts, front, back, left and right, top and bottom. That runs in alkalinity. Illness cannot exist in an alkaline environment, period. Not just, everybody wants to talk about cancer. I don't care what it is. Cancer and cold, it doesn't make any difference to me. What makes a difference is how people perceive it. Right? Somebody has a cold, they go, oh, baby, do you want a tissue? I have cancer. Oh. Like it can jump on them, right? So people, I never did anything during COVID different than I do from day to day, every day. And so people call and they go, I'm not feeling well. I might have the COVID. I said, do you honestly believe that you can give me your spirit of infirmity? Yes or no? Well, I guess not. I said, well, call me back when you're sure. I mean, we can correct your polarity and you'll be better. I'll tell you what I did. I was not feeling well. I don't know if I had the COVID or not. I don't give a flying flip. Ain't nobody sticking that thing up my nose. No. Yes. Yeah, I'm just so not doing that. And so I was not feeling well. I'd run like 103, 104 temperature, and I go, I felt bad. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. So I went in there and I asked the angels to give me a remedy. I said, I want a solution. I don't want a treatment. I want a solution. You can have a treatment if you want. I like a solution. And so they gave me the reagent called demonic shield. I put my DNA in the well and turned it on, and that afternoon I was mowing the grass. Booyah. I like booyah. That's what I'm talking about. So electromagnetic interference absolutely cranked up in 21, and the beginning of this year, it is absolutely run rampant. So, who said 5G? Do you honestly think 5G can infringe on a child of God? Scratch that beard a little bit longer. I can do that too, and I'm checking for other things, but you older ladies, we know, yes. Isn't that interesting? God, that ain't funny. No, see, we give 5G authority over us, and that's the point I'm making, is it has no authority that we do not give it, so don't give it any. So in 2019 or 2021, April, because of crawfish, believe it or not, the little crawfish, my God, it just pays and pays and pays. My original background is computer science engineering, and I did 4 years in compliance with Chevron Pipeline Company. And so, you had to, if there was a spill or whatever, you'd have to put berms up, and, you'd have to corral the water and all of that. And you'd put fish or shrimp in there, and if they survived X number of months or whatever, I don't remember, it's been too long ago now how many months it had to be. And if they survived, then the water was deemed clean, and you could let it go. So the crawfish are like our canary in the coal mine. And so this showed up, we had a pond that was powered by an electric well. And so when this started happening, the power switched polarity every 3 seconds, positive, negative, positive, negative. And so every 3 seconds, so it's +3 - 3 equals 0. And so it was making the water so much inhospitable to the crawfish, they evacuated the pond, a 20-acre pond. It was like Moses crossing the Red Sea, but it was the field road. Man, they were getting out of Dodge. And so we say, I checked the water was good, and I stuck my hand down in there, and the polarity was just 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off, positive, negative. I was going, oh, what the heck is happening here? And so I traced it back to the electrical current, and then I traced it back to 17 countries that this was going on in. And so most of you folks have your outlet right at your bed to plug in your cell phone and whatnot. And so during the night, 3 seconds on, 3 seconds on, robbing you of current. And you wonder why you wake up fuzzy and can't think and you need 8 cups of coffee. That is why. So I have been doing sessions, personal sessions for people, and I ask them to bring their cell phones, their key fobs, their iPads, their laptops if they have them, and I calibrate them so that they don't rob them. In Lake Charles, they made everybody go to digital meters, right? And so I paid $15 a month to have a digital meter, not a smart meter. They have to come read it every month, right? So the young man is out there and he's putting it in. And I said, well, tell me, how can I tell that it's the difference between a smart meter and a digital meter? And he looked me dead in the eye and he goes, you can't. So the game is on. And so that's entertainment, let me tell you. So he comes and I work, my office is at home. So I see when that yahoo drives up in my drive from Entergy. And I'm going, he's going to take his little hickey-do and read my meter, and he's going to switch it. And when he leaves, I'll walk right out there, point my finger at it, and switch it right back. So every time he's going, it's like, yes. When he switches it back to the polarity where it's 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off, I switch it back to its only positive polarity running in my house. And I actually have an electrical contractor in my practice, and I said, you need to start thinking about what it's going to look like when you don't have a negative pole in the wiring system. So you need to start thinking about it because that's what's coming, and you'd be right on the cutting edge of it. That is the great question, isn't it? Well, it's nothing good. We know it's nothing good. They want to hold on to Hertzian frequency because Hertzian frequency kills people. Yeah, of course. They're not nice people. But it don't matter because I can still do it. So this is the well that we had to fix. And there's the power system for that. And all the crawfish were making mass exodus here down the road. This here was Egypt. That there was the Holy Land. All right, so this is the problem that I have found in the last month. Now, how long it has been like that, I really don't know because, again, I made people not cheat. So I don't know exactly how long it's been that there was a disconnect between the upper and lower portions of the body. So now we know about it, so now we can do something about it. So when you look at this line right here, you can see all the things that are affected by that disconnect. So think about this, 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. So you're left with null, which means you will then start utilizing the electrical current stored in your cellular tissue. This is not good. And the fact that it's not just the United States, I had contacts in 17 countries and they checked it there as well. And they had the exact same thing. So it's not just us. All over. Europe, in the Middle East, Asia, in South America, in the Caribbean, everywhere I checked it was that way. All right, so this is how you can go down and check to see what systems are on and which systems are not. Is there anyone in here that does not know how to dowse? Raise your hand. All right, so who knows how to dowse back there that we can help our brother? All right, you can help your brother back there. All right, so this is what we're going to do. This is handy dandy. You can put anybody's name here you want, or you can just hold their name in your mind. And you can go down there and see which ones are off, which ones are on. And I call it the pointer method. You point at it and you dowse going down through. Point with the left hand, dowse with the right hand. That's the outflow side. And you can see, say, you're having somebody with heart issues. So that's those 4 nerves right there, heart, lung. Bless you. So you never see heart-lung issues that you do not see a power problem. I had a young man, probably not terrible young, he'd be glad I said that. You know, I'm from Lake Charles, Louisiana. We had 4 hurricanes almost 2 years ago now. And so we're still having repairs done on our house. Well, we have stucco guys that were from Romania. And so they're out there, and I'm hearing, da, and I'm going, oh, okay, they speak Russian, all right. So anyway, he was not looking good one day, and I asked him, I said, Valentino, what's wrong? He goes, I just don't feel right. And he's a long, tall guy, and anytime you see a really long torso, the psoas muscle attaches at the hip and on the inside of the spine at the cardiopulmonary nerve. So it becomes a really big lever. When it's out, it's a big lever. And so I said, well, Valentino, come in and let me put you on the table and see what's wrong. And his right leg was this much shorter than his left leg. So he was having 4 inches of torque on his cardiopulmonary nerve. Well, I got him set. I released all of that, got it all going his way. And, you know, the color came back in his face. He could breathe right and all of that. And it wasn't a month. He said, well, you know, I'm supposed to go to see my cardiologist as a checkup. And his cardiologist said, well, let's give you a stress test. And they found all kinds of blockages, almost 100%, and he went in and had stents and all of that. Had we not done the balancing, I don't think he'd have made it a month. So now the Romanians are on my side. Yep, me and the Romanians. Just like that, baby. You laugh, I'm sure of it. All right, so here's the golden question. How do I check my own polarity? So the ones of you who dowse, this is going to be easier, I guess, than the ones of you who do not dowse with a pendulum, but we can give it a try. So what you're going to want to do, put your stuff down. This is the participative part of this. You just thought you were going to get to sit, didn't you? Alas, no earwax. All right. So you're going to take your pendulum, and if you're dowsing with the finger, I guess, I don't know how you're going to do it. Pendulum will be the best, in my estimation. You're going to take your left hand, put it on your right elbow, and it's not, you don't have to stick your left foot in or anything, because we ain't going to sing the hokey pokey. And so what you're going to do, if you get a yes, that's a positive polarity. If you get a no, it's a negative polarity. All right, that's what we're going to go on. So ask to see your polarity, because your right side is your outflow. What is my polarity? Positive polarity. Well, whatever your answer is, that's what we're going to go to. A yes is a positive polarity. A no is a negative polarity. All right? Does everybody have an answer? All right, write it down. Because we're going to come back and check. You're going to put your left hand on your right elbow and ask, what is my polarity? And a yes is a positive polarity. A no is a negative polarity. Or the left side. We're connecting them. So this is your upper body. Upper body, right? Or it doesn't? Upper body. Okay. I'm with you. Does everybody write it down? You got an answer? All right, here's the next thing you're going to check for. Put your left hand, again, on your right elbow, and douse for the percentage of hydration. Yep, what you are right now. This was given to us in the workshop the other day, and I thought, what a great idea. I wished I'd have thought of it. Percentage of hydration. No. 0, 10, 20, 30. When you get, say you got to 50 and it wasn't 50, and then you back down 49, 48 till you got a yes. Well, you're going to ask, you have still, pendulum is about a yes and a no, yes? All right, so you're asking, is the percentage 10%, 20, 30, 40? Come here. Do you want me to do it for you? You can do this. You got to do this at home. Come on, you can do this. Yeah, it doesn't take very long if you do it. Doesn't matter. Nope, doesn't matter. No, because the reason why we get dehydrated has absolutely nothing to do with really our water intake. And I'm fixing to show it to you. You 8 cup a dayers, you're going to be happy with me in a moment. The ones that aren't can start. Well, I'm going to show you why it's an issue. Because inquiring minds want to know. So does everybody have their percentage? Did I hear no? Well, you can't have 200%. All right, hold on. What's your percentage? 10, 20, 30, 39. You're 39% hydration level. All right, 39%, that's what you are. 39%, write that down. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your left hand and put it on your right leg and check the polarity there. Again, a yes is positive, a negative is a no. So what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to check to see if the polarity is the same cross body and upper body. That's what we're after here. It ain't rocket science. I've decided I want to make t-shirts and put Einstein in it with the fuzzy hair. It says I'm not a rocket scientist. That's the t-shirt I want. Really? So did everybody get their polarity on that right leg? So do the same thing on the left leg. So we're going to check left, right, left on left, left on left. Were they the same? So who had it the same left and right, top and bottom? Was it negative or positive? So who had positive upper and lower body on left and right? Okay, very good. Bless you again. Bless you.
On the left, when I put my left hand on my left side, that was negative.
Oh, so you are cross polarity. All right, so that's not a big deal. We can fix that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yeah. They probably went to Texas once.
Easy, looking for a table, a booth, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Well, thank you. All right, so put your feet on the floor. No crossing the legs, no cheating. All right, so you folks in the back might have to stand up. I'm not sure, but we'll try to be brief. I want you to get to where you can see. And what we're after, come see. Come see. What we are after is the flexure of this quadrant of the spine. This is what we're after, because this frees up all those cardiopulmonary nerve, brachial plexus, and all of that, radial nerve. That frees up the spine. All right, thank you. It's hard for me to touch my own back. Maybe when I was younger, nah. So what you're going to do, you never stretch a muscle that you do not breathe out of your mouth. So if you need to stand, if you cannot see my legs, you need to stand. Get to where you can see. Because you're going to do this just as soon as we're done. Ready? So you're going to take a breath, and I'm going to start with the left side. This arm does nothing. Gravity. Take a breath and breathe out of your mouth and reach and touch the outside of the calf and just let your head be limp. And this arm, just gravity. When you have breathed out, you're going to switch and do the exact same thing on the out breath out of your mouth on the right. Yes. Yes, ma'am. You're welcome. And do that about 3 times. And you can tell how far down your spine that's all working. Bless you. And it doesn't take a long time. Nope, just touch. Because what will happen is the principle of resonance will be employed. And this is your auric field at play. So you're bringing that resonance from both sides so that you can harmonize the polarity system. And you probably noticed that it got easier every time you did it. And it's because you breathe out of your mouth. That programs the body to let go. Breathe out your mouth as you're going down, because as you're going down, you're stretching those muscles, so you want to breathe out of your mouth that says, I can let go. And put your head down all the way, relax, relax, relax. Because you're wanting that whole spinal structure to relax and the muscles beside it. That's what you're after. Yes? You can't do it? Okay. All right, can you do to the knee? If you can connect the knee plexure, top and bottom, with your hand, if you can get to the lower part of the knee, it'll work just as well, I think. Give that a try. But the same thing where you hang your head and you relax your arm so that the upper torso is relaxed, because a muscle that is tasked, T-A-S-K-E-D, will not let go. So you have to relax it, breathe out the mouth, and just let gravity work. So give that a try, because what we're going to do next will depend on this technique. See, this is your morning calisthenics. You're welcome. Hey, I love to be the good girl. All right, has everybody done it now? Yes. So, all right, I want you to go back to the original. Left hand on the right elbow. And see what your polarity is. A yes is a positive, a no is a negative. If you are positive polarity all the way around, you are scalar. Welcome to the real world. The rest of the whole universe is scalar. We might as well join in. All right, so everybody has gotten that? And, well, we're not sure yet. So we're going to come and check the left leg and see if it's positive or negative. Left hand on left leg. And then left hand on right leg. Yep. Well, that's too bad, isn't it? Oh, I see the problem. Okay. Try it again now. Yes, do it again now. No, I don't need you to do the stretch. Check your polarity again. Doesn't matter to me. You know, I have seen a lot of people, and I'm not exactly sure why, but the pulmonary artery is like electrically dead on people, and that was the issue for you. Shortness of breath, heavy legs, if you had any of that.
When I was doing that, I was getting dizzy.
I bet you were. Do it again now, see if that corrected it for you. No, 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 just bend down. Bend down. Because that's lights out kind of stuff. You okay now?
Yeah, I didn't get dizzy.
Thank you, Lord. All right, very good. Somebody else had a problem back here? You still reversed?
I'm going back in for my second. But I was all positive on everything.
All right, so stand up for me. Try it again. Try it again. Try it again. And the left leg. And the other leg. Yeah, that other left leg. You good now? Is everybody all positive? Thank the Lord. All right, very good. So we don't have to worry about that because scalar resonance is very, very important. So we did the stretching for success. Yay, we were all successful. So we want to know how to check polarity and other things. Always left hand. I do. That's my half American bobcat kitty. White with blue eyes, no tail. And people come into the office and they say, "What happened to her tail?" I said, "Nothing happened to her tail. She didn't have one." And so you go all the way down the spine. And if you find a negative, I ask the Holy Spirit to fix it. And I hold it until it is positive, and then move on until I don't have anything but positive polarity. Well, it's the power is turned on. Most people don't even know what the power turned on feels like. That's what it feels like. And you're just at, they say 25%. Can you imagine when it gets up to full tilt? All right. So I have a saltwater tank. And so my mama clown, she gets a little cranky sometimes. And so if she goes to getting cranky, I do the pointer method. I demonstrated the pointer method to y'all, right? I'm going to point to you. I'm going to check. You know how I figured that out? I was on my motorcycle checking crawfish ponds, and it was well digger butt cold, 10 degrees, snow and ice this thick, and I needed to check the polarity on the pond, and the wind was blowing about 25 miles an hour, and I took off my glove and put my hand in the water to check polarity, and I'm going, I bet I can just point. And sure enough,
Why did you put your hand in the water? Why wasn't it frozen?
I was very quick.
Yeah.
For an old girl, I'm fast.
The temperature must have just dropped a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, we had like an ice age for 2 weeks down there, which is uncommon.
Yeah, it's supposed to be south.
I know. It snowed, and let me tell you something else. That snow and ice did not melt when it was 70 degrees. Well, yeah, that happened in Texas too, so it wasn't real ice and snow. Wasn't natural, I can tell you that. So you can just check, see, like I check, just as a matter of point. Right now, I can check if my fish is doing good. And my fish has positive polarity as we speak right this moment because I can use her picture to check it. Slicker than a whistle. I do this all the time. I'm on the road and one of my clients will call and goes, you know, Pearl here, that's Pearl. She's a gypsy Vandermeer in Belleville, Texas. Pearl's not feeling well. And I said, well, send me a picture left and right. And I'll quadrant her and check upper and lower polarity and left and right polarity until they're balanced. And she'll call me back when I'm done. She goes, she's fine now. She's eating grass now, so it's like wonderful. So I use that pointer method off that left hand.
When you pointed at me, I could feel it, but I wondered what your intention was and what happened.
All right, so when, I hesitate to tell you because you'll focus on what was instead of what is.
Oh, I feel, yeah, I understand that.
If there's an imbalance, I'll just call it an imbalance. They said there was an imbalance there. And so we just corrected the imbalance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you were talking to her, Aunt, before you did that, she touched your nose. I wondered if that was something.
Perhaps I had an itch. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was. Oh, I don't know. I probably had an itch on my nose. I don't remember that. Well, y'all are all doubters. You can see if I'm telling the truth and not in a heartbeat. Yeah. Yeah. And so the only way that you can measure Hertzian scalar energy is with dowsing. There's not a meter for it. Hertzian, meters measure the frequency even into the megahertz range. But scalar is above megahertz range, even gigahertz range. That's why I'm saying, who talked about 5G? You talked about 5G. If 5G is here and you're here, you don't give a flying flip about it. That's like me down in Louisiana saying, where are you from? Vermont. I am going to shoot at you from Lake Charles, Louisiana. And you're going to go, okay. Why? Because I can't hit you. I don't have the range. Period. And so that stuff doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't bother me in the least. All I got to do is rise above it. It's like if you are in an airplane and there's a storm, what do? They fly above it. And that's what we got to do too. And we don't have to, we get to. I encourage everybody to get to. So who was in Marty Lucas's info channel class?
Oh, the 33 channel?
Yes. Well, when I got the info channel reagent in Denver, Colorado in September of last year, it was a divinely downloaded reagent. And they were talking about how, that was 33. And the angel said, well, there's way more than 33. Because you're talking about octaves, right? 33, but then you have the resonance in the octaves. And so when I was in Marty's class, and I never listened to, and I've heard Marty several times, many times, 5 years I guess I've known him. I never hear Marty that I don't learn something. Never. So it doesn't matter if you've heard him speak before, go again because you'll get something else or it'll get deeper and broader. So I was sitting in there and he was talking about the 33 channels and I had a vision. And in the vision, I saw 33 lines, like optic cable, fiber optic cable. And they went out like this tree, and on each branch were 3 more branches to make the 90 and 9. And then the green leaves came on those branches, and they said, this is the tree of life, and the leaves are the manifestation thereof. All my hair, oh, Lord have mercy. Whoa, and so Catherine started drawing it. If you get to the table, ask her to show it to you. It's powerful. I mean, all the hair on my body. Woo! So I had this lady, I got to tell a quick story because it's great. So this lady was in my office, and she had asked me, because I went to Israel years ago, and if you've ever seen pictures or have been to the Garden of Gethsemane, you never forget it. It's a very iconic picture. And she asked me if I'd ever go back to Israel. And I was about to tell her, well, I don't know if God sends me. He sent me the first time. He hadn't asked me to go again because I pitched such a fit because I was sure he meant Cairo. And he said Jerusalem, so we fought a little bit about that. But anyway, they showed me the picture of the Garden of Gethsemane. And if you take a camera and just pan down in the ground, they moved off about 300 yards and that panned the camera under the ground. And all of those trees that you see in the Garden of Gethsemane are branches. And the tree underneath is just enormous. And they said, there come a day where that will come to the surface. That's the tree of life, which makes perfect sense now because I have been to Jerusalem. If Jesus went to the Garden of Gethsemane to pray, he had to walk almost probably 2.5 miles to get there. And it was like this. It's a long way. There was other places he could have gone. But if he knew it was the tree of life and he was praying for the cup of death to pass him by, it starts making a whole heck of a lot of sense that he would have known what was there. But this always reminds me of that. We have in church now. All right, so I use radionics all the time, and I use radionics because it's a dandy little shiny tool to have in your toolbox. I go out and I assess and treat and all of that, and I'll follow up to maintain using radionics so I can check that box and move on to the next thing. Doesn't take any more of my energy to maintain it. So you can do these, like you can use these to dowse with. This is a Tesla antenna. That is a 6-plate Tesla antenna. It's banging. So if you go into checking, you can get really fine-tuned on where imbalances are. Where, you know, we'll get it within a percentage perhaps, but when you start dowsing using one of these big Tesla coils, man, it makes it very, very fine. All your detail work fine. And these are little Tesla coils here too. And you can use them with the reagents, or you can use them with oils, homeopathics, whatever. And you can do little passive broadcasts with these little Tesla coils. They're dandy and they're cheap. If you don't want to get into radionics big time, those are just cheap as they can be. Yes, ma'am. Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want to broadcast and amplify. So I use a lot of radionics to balance people. You know, I have several different ones that are just incredible. The one that was just divinely downloaded is Sacred Qubit, which our DNA is based on the Sacred Qubit. Very powerful. Works with continuity of circuit, which is all about our power system. Right blood, making sure that the blood is right. That's another divinely downloaded one. Just incredible stuff. So this is the continuity of circuit. And the info channels. There's one that's called info channels. So those are the 4 horsemen on the good side of the fence. Dandy, dandy, dandy. But of course, you know, dowse. If something you need, wonderful. If not, that's wonderful too. So again, I use radionics all the time. How many people know that that's radionics broadcast too? Right, so so-and-so has a blood issue, and I have the right blood reagent in my hand. I'm praying that this is getting corrected right now. And you're focusing on that person, and you're praying. That's a radionic broadcast. It's the oldest one around. Exactly right. Exactly right. I do Zoom meetings, and I'll put reagents in the bowls, the crystal bowls, and ring the bowls on the Zoom, and people are falling out in the Zoom. They fell out in the spirit. That's what we're saying. So again, this is the witness wells. I carry replicators with me all the time. Because I'm on the road, if somebody calls and I need something in a hurry, I have a device that I can broadcast. Matter of fact, I have a recovery well, one of the 10-inch bowls, if you've seen the one that's on Marty's table. Of all the people that are in the recovery well in my office right now, I brought them with me. So if somebody called, oh, I got your stuff right here. So you can put DNA, photos, write their name. It's so easy. Intention is everything. If I intend that to be the exact thing, that's exactly what it's going to be. I use reagents all the time. All of these reagents, with the exception of the divinely downloaded ones, have some of them 400 and 500 banks in them. And each bank is 2. So you have 1,000 different frequencies all into one, so that you can repeat that over and over and over again and not have to remake it again. Yes, ma'am.
Energy coils, does it matter if they're swapped upside down or not?
Douse for it. Sometimes it needs a reverse. If somebody has a toxic response, you can flip them over and do the reverse, and that's their antidote. Play with it.
So the reagent is the solution, like what? I don't see what.
It depends. You would douse to see what you needed. Depends on what the problem was. You know, that's the point in this whole exercise, is can we correct the problem? And so that's where your dowsing comes in. Do I need this? Do I need that? And you pointer method. I'm checking.
What happens if you don't get trusted value?
Then you need to practice till you do. Have somebody partner with you that can verify you got it right. And then when you build confidence in yourself, rock and roll, baby. How old are you?
32.
Oh, see, you're coming up on a big year, 33. Yeah. You'll have it down pat by then. That's what they're saying. Keep going. You're there. You're almost there. All right. So the other thing that we can do with the reagents is we can program them. Say I put in 500 banks, which is 1,000 frequency sets. When I go to potentize it or make the reagent, it may require 20 or 30 layers, which is like octaves. You can have a flute in your orchestra, or you can have a full orchestra. And that's what's nice about the reagents, is you can program them with that depth and breadth that you don't get with just a ringing of a bowl or a frequency set. Yes, ma'am. Right blood. Right blood. Right. R-I-G-H-T. And you know what? I don't name any of my reagents. They're all named by the angels. And right in Hebrew means perfected and able to stand before God. It doesn't mean correct. So when you're dowsing, ask if it is right. I'm sorry. You would think if I'm from Texas, I'd talk slower, but they only gave me an hour and 15 minutes, so I'm hurrying. Right blood. Those are the four.
I got second cubit, right blood, info channels, and
right blood.
I got it right.
That's the four.
I got three. I got sacred cubit, white blood, info channels,
continuity of circuit. Continuity of circuit. Ma'am?
What is the right? What is the definition? What is?
Oh, I'm sorry. Right means perfected and able to stand before God. And let me tell you how that translation got screwed up. It got screwed up that righteousness was unattainable because the people who translated it read left to right, not right to left. In the scripture it says to be in right standing before God. That's unattainable. But in Hebrew, stand for me. In Hebrew, righteousness means I stand right before you. It's a positional term. That's why the prayers of a righteous man availeth much, because I'm looking you dead in the eyeballs.
And Ho'oponopono is making it right.
That's exactly right. So what was so scary, I guess, about this whole upper body, lower body thing and the cardiopulmonary nerve is the people who did not body douse, their dowsing was all messed up. Because when you're using left and right hand and that upper torso and the electrical was messed up in the upper body, your dowsing was messed up. Now, if you do, before you douse anything, you check your polarity, make sure you're right. Before you check anybody else, you better be checking yourself. Because the buck does stop here. So we need to make sure this is right first, and then when we go to checking for other things in other people, then we know we're getting really right answers. And you can always ask if it's right, and that will override everything because of what the word means. Take advantage of it. Quantum entanglement, that word is absolutely quantum entangled. It is a very powerful word. Words of power. Again, you can use all kinds of things with these little pumps and with radionics, essential oils, homeopathies. It does, you can do anything. Pictures, I use pictures all the time for witnesses. I'll put that in the well. I do a lot of water work, aquifer work, big bodies of water. I just finished a radiation project in North Carolina, 1,000 acres. There was a location nearby this place that they had illegally dumped radioactive waste.
Okay.
I will not say. No, it is not. And so what you could see when I took drone shots of it, where the leach lines, where the water were coming out on the hill, all the trees below that were dying, Christmas trees. And so they had me stand in the water and use radioesthesia to balance it, and then I follow up with radionics. And so I do so much radioactive work, I have a Geiger counter. And so everything was fine there, and I get home and I'm going, you know, I don't think I checked me. And so the buck stops here, right? So I got out my Geiger counter, turned it on. Beep, 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 beep. Ooh, well, I suppose I should have cleared me. So I did that, and then it didn't beep anymore, so I was good. That doesn't bother me.
So the Geiger counter will stop beeping once you clear yourself of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, it did, but you know, you have to know that it's going to happen. When I ask for something, it's not. I don't know maybe what's going to happen, but I know something's going to happen, and I will douse till it's right, because I'm all about the right. Is it right? And once I get it right, baby, I'm rocking and rolling to the next thing. So pictures, hair, fingernails. I love blood because there's power in the blood. I love to use blood, particularly when I'm using the right blood reagent. I want blood. And I'm not a vampire. I can get out in the daylight and everything. Although I am not partial to garlic, so I'm not sure whether it's garlic or wolfsbane for vampires or werewolves. I always get that confused. So remember when you're taking witnesses that fingerprints are a witness. So be careful when you're getting samples together to wear gloves so that you don't put your fingerprints on it. Because whatever you're broadcasting will come to you as well. Be aware. Radioesthesia. I bet you everybody in this room does radioesthesia. Can sense energy. Everybody has radioesthesia capabilities. How many people have walked into this room, into a room, hopefully not this room, and go, ooh, that doesn't feel so good. And you'll have people that'll suck the life out of a room. And then you'll have the other people say, man, I don't ever want to leave here, right? And so that's radioesthesia, you know, where you can sense the energies around you. And some people, you know, are gifted with the ability to see those energies, which is wonderful. So that's radioesthesia. I do a little different things. I call it radioesthesia, where you can sense the energy and make changes. Just like that radiation. You know, I asked angels, can we change it? And they said, why do you think you're here? I said, okay, I can run with that. So, and again, I check till it's right. And you can do the same thing. And that's radioesthesia. I sense it, and then I see how to change it. Because we have an outcome in mind, it's not real difficult to know that if there's radiation, we don't want radiation, and we don't want to wait 10,000 years for it to be made right. We don't have that long. Matter of fact, one of my projects in California, I'm home 6 days and then I'm off to the West Coast. My projects on the West Coast are radiation. One on the Hopi Reservation, that's a uranium-1 problem. And then the sequoias and the redwoods in California and in Oregon. And that's Fukushima. And, you know, because they're conifers, if you kill the top of the tree, the whole tree dies. And so it's fallout on the West Coast. So, you know, we're gonna fix it for the trees, but we're also gonna fix it for everyone else. Because it's time. It's time. Now's a good time. So, how many people do Reiki? How many people do hands-on healing work? How many people do you know that, oh, I just love their hugs? That is radioesthesia and radioesthesia. Power in that touch. Power in that touch. So the energy is changing, no doubt about it, and it's moving at a very, very fast clip. Frequencies in the body that were 20 years ago, if those people are running those same frequencies, they're either dead or pretty close to it. And this again is all your electronics. Get out your cell phones. Have your pendulum ready. And ask, is your phone calibrated for you? Because we done changed you. It doesn't matter. It's never really off. They just say it's off. Is it calibrated for you? Did anybody get a yes? Then you're done. Who didn't? Whose phone was not calibrated for them? All right, so here's what we're going to do. I asked the Holy Spirit to calibrate it for me. I asked the Holy Spirit to calibrate it for me. I'm telling you how I do it, whatever word you want to use. You have not because you asked not. I asked the Holy Spirit to make it right for me. And your cars, if you have a computer-controlled car, I can about bet you that your car is not calibrated for you. Does everybody have their key fob with them for their cars? Well, get them doobers out. We're full service here. You just thought you was coming for one thing. Well, those are not, yeah.
My car keys aren't computer. Well, maybe
If your key fob is electric, it is. If you don't open your car with a key, then you need to get your key fob out.
my car is 19 years old. It's 2001.
Yep, you need to do it. So ask if it's calibrated for you. Put it in your left hand and ask if it's calibrated for you. Did you put your pendulum up?
It's my pendulum's on my neck, sorry.
All right, so ask if your key fob is calibrated for you. If it is not, good. You don't have to do anything then. Because what will happen is if your key fob is calibrated for you and you unlock the door, you have programmed your car to be in calibration with you. Now, how slick is that? Laptops, computers, everything. Anything electronic, you better be checking if it's calibrated for you. And the reason why I know this is because my truck absolutely would not open the door. It would not start. It told GMC that it was stolen. And so my lovely daughter, Catherine, says, Mom, did you calibrate your truck for you? I said, what a good idea. And so after that, we've not had any more trouble. It's an issue. Let me tell you, the more scalar you get, the more issue it's going to be. So you might as well have that tool in your toolbox.
I just have a question. I think you said in 2018, everything switched from Hertz. How do you know that? Did the angels tell you this?
Yes, exactly. Plus, it's documented because when did all the FAA things start happening? 2018. They're having to revise the FAA flight maps every 4 months, I think, now. Because the fly-by-wire planes are not lining up with the runways anymore. It's very interesting. What a time to be alive. But you got to check your electronics. It's 3 seconds. 3 seconds, not 3 hertz. Positive, negative, 3 seconds on, 3 seconds off. Positive, negative. 3 seconds. 3 seconds. Well, I have a reagent called Reverence that takes care of that. But you could ask for it to be corrected. You could point at your meter and ask it to be made right and hold it till it's right. It's your pointer finger. Right? I do. I figure you can't go wrong. And so this is the versus right now, the Hertzian frequency that operates in acid. And matter of fact, this has become a huge issue in my practice because I get calls all the time now because people can't wake up either parts of their body or their whole body after anesthesia. And so, you know, if a lot of times the intestines won't wake up. If that happens and they can't reestablish them, you will die, period. Gangrene will set in and you're dead in 2 weeks, if that long. So I get calls to bring antidotes, and so I'll do blood and make blood antidotes, a reverse, and wake them up. So everybody now is positive, top, bottom, left, right, all of that. So now I want you to, again, test the percentage of hydration. Shall I do you?
Yeah.
72%. You probably hadn't drunk anything. I bet you didn't drink that much.
I drank mineral water. Thank you.
And so if the hydration is right in the body, the electrical current will flow. It's like most of us in here are old enough to remember that you had to check the water in your car battery. Yes, no, maybe? And if you didn't have the right amount of water, what happened? And it stopped working. Interesting that you would bring that up. Say that louder. Well, let me tell you an interesting sulfified. It's sulfured up. Let me tell you an interesting factoid. Sulfur displaces the oxygen ion. Isn't that interesting? I'll tell you another thing that's kind of interesting. I believe that the breath of God is pure oxygen. And the man who set up the table of elements came from France, and he was a banker who worked for the Rothschilds. And so he put sulfur over oxygen. And sulfur in biblical terms is what? Brimstone. Little factoid, throw it out there. So everybody's hydration went up, yes? You don't need to. If you have the body working, it already knows what to do. You can't improve on perfection. And it's kind of insulting to try. Although he hasn't been really ugly about it. Oh, absolutely. You know, and for years, I could never take sulfa drugs. When I was younger, oh, it'd make me deathly ill. And now I know why. It's very interesting. Douse. Douse if you need it. Douse if you need it. All right, so let me ask this question in here. Who believes rice is healthy? Do a lot of rice. Who does rice? Do you know what they want to fertilize most of the time with rice? It says it absolutely requires large amounts of sulfur. And I do rice crawfish down there all the time with radionics. All rices, all rices, all rices. So I found that really interesting. Just one of those, put that in your cap and chew on it a little while. All right, so this is why we're trying to get your hydration up. Because we were made of the dirt and we are of the earth, we have to be the same as she is, which is 70% minimum. And those of you that went over 70%, who went over 70% on their oxygen or their water saturations? That meant that's how dehydrated you are. Continue to drink, and I'll tell you why. You have now gotten your systems turned on, right? So now you're going to start dumping. So keep the fluids going. I'm one of the few people that can say, thank you, Jesus, and diarrhea in the same sentence and mean it. Because better out than in. But you'll start dumping this because there's been plaque in the gut that wouldn't allow you to absorb moisture. nor nutrients. And so you didn't get the value of any of your food nor your moisture to speak of because of this barrier. They showed me a picture of like an old gnarly scab that had pus underneath it and just leaching poison into your system. Yes, it's going to come out. Oh, yes. Oh, it's part. No, it's part of your immune system. Flush. Yeah, absolutely. Heat is all about transformation and change.
Can I have clarification for that? My hydration was 85%. So that's bad?
No. Listen. When you have over 70%, that means there's a toxic load. And your body is bringing more water in to flush it out. Like if your toilet doesn't have enough water in it, does it flush?
So if I'm 90%, I'm flushing a lot of stuff?
Yes, you will. That's what I'm saying. Keep the fluids going now. That means you had a high toxic load that your body's trying to flush.
70% is optimal.
That's what they say.
Okay. So 65.
He was at 65, and I said, you just need to raise it a little bit.
So we want to be around 70.
When you're drinking really well, you know, general rule of thumb is weight divided by 2 is the number of ounces you need a day. If you're struggling with something, you need to increase it so you flush your system. Absolutely. Yeah, exit. Yeah. But see, it's turning the power on. Turning the power on. If you turn the power on, the body already knows what to do. You don't have to tell it to do anything. You know, the angels told me years ago that there was innate wisdom in your very tissues that superseded what was in between your 2 ears. And that was so we couldn't mess it up too bad. And this is what we were talking about the gut. And so what's kind of interesting too, because we're into interesting things right now, the spiritual umbilicus is your navel. All the lymph comes right here. And when you're bending over and you're doing that stretch, it's kind of interesting because when you breathe right, your diaphragm is right here, yes? Right? And when you breathe in and out, in your nose, out your mouth, you work that diaphragm. So it moves the lymph up into the thoracic lymph ducts here, and it dumps ultimately in the arteries here in your neck. So if you're always upright, it's very difficult to get rid of lymphatic congestion. So when you're doing those stretches and you drop your head, you're draining the lymph. And when you drain the lymph, all the lymph from your spine and excess cerebral spinal fluid collects in these lower quadrants of the lymphatic drainage system. So when you move it out, you free up the spinal nerves in the spine. A lot of spinal congestion comes from lymph that isn't draining, and it pinches it off like kink in a garden hose. So several of y'all have come and done sessions. There is a essential oil combination called Peace of Heart that the angels gave me a recipe, which is kind of interesting because I was talking about it to them the other day. And you know, it's very similar to the recipe that was given in the Bible for the temple in the wilderness for the Israelites. And so it says not to make it. And this combination is very, very similar to it. There's a couple of variations that they gave on it. And I asked them about that. And they had a very interesting thing to say because we look at those things, well, why can't we make it? You know, it was supposed to be wonderful, yada, yada, yada. And they said to me this, that the reason why we were not supposed to replicate it or repeat it was because it was for that time. And it would no longer be valid in this time. And the recipe they gave me is for this time. And one of the components is oil that's been aged for 25 years. As a matter of fact, I was going to throw it out, and they go, no, we've saved that. That's the workhorse in this deal. And so I was telling somebody about that, and they goes, well, what happens when there isn't any more? And I said, we won't need it anymore. Don't think about a less, think about a need. Do you still need it? Well, no. This is an actual essential oil and I put it on the gut for the plaque. And yeah. And matter of fact, there was several they were out there yesterday that had neck stuff. It breaks down scar tissue, blockage. I'm almost always putting it on people's hearts. You know, that kind of thing. I brought a few with me. Yeah, I did. It's dandy, but you can't get wild with it. Little dabble do you like dippity do.
And you put it on every day?
No, I would not put it on every day. They're really hot oils. Once a week is plenty. And sometimes maybe one time is all you need. You know, so don't get wild. You know, you have these people that have the whole idea of if a little bit is good, a whole lot's a whole lot better. And that's not true. You can overload your apple cart. So big thing in antidotes, I've done a lot of antidotes because of the Hertzian frequency and the scalar. And these medicines are Hertzian in your scalar, and it just drags you down, messes you up. So I've done a lot of antidotes. This one is very interesting, and I want to get into this thing because I have 10 minutes left, 8 minutes left, so I got to hustle. So here we go. This was what this blood looked like 30 minutes after we've drawn it out of these horses, and I have worked with these horses for, I guess, 10 years now. It already separated out. It was not like that last year. I ran the blood antidote on these horses, and this is what the blood looks like 19 days after the draw. It looks oxygenated. When we drew it, it was black and purple. I had never seen anything like that. And I was called into a case with a lady in the hospital. She had taken, and I'm not vaccine bashing, don't get me wrong. She had taken 7 different vaccines, and I happened to be in there when they drew blood from the lab, and her blood looked like that. Well, they gave these horses 7 inoculations. Well, they gave inoculations last year. It wasn't an issue. So there's something different about this year that we didn't see before. So I ran a blood antidote on that lady, of course, and it was okay. And also right blood. I had toxic hay showing up this year. And it's the chemical fertilizers. All right? So back to the crawfish. We had crawfish dying like crazy. And he calls me out there. And so they had just the crop dusting plane went over to disseminate the chemical fertilizer. And the crawfish were northwest of the field that he did the fertilizer on, and there was a steady southwesterly wind. So it blew it into the ponds. And one of the elements is what? Sulfur. It displaced the oxygen out of the water. Where do you think our water is? Yes. Where's the majority of the water in your body? Yeah, blood. Does that make anybody's wheels turn in their brain? So this was not an issue last year. It is an issue this year. So the reason why I say August, September is a huge issue is because these chemical fertilizers on these crops and these vegetables are going to start hitting the market in August and September. And it's going to be displacing oxygen out of the blood. And you couple that with the electromagnetic interference on the heart-lung, and they're going to diagnose it as a COVID variant. And it's going to be chemical poisoning and electromagnetic disturbance. But now you know what to do about it. You know what to do about it. That's why I'm here. And I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you it's going to be a big problem. And the people who are going to be most affected are the elderly and the little children. Because the little children, you're talking about a very small area for that amount of toxicity to hit. And the older people mainly because you hardly see anybody older that isn't on a multitude of pharmaceuticals. And so many of the pharmaceuticals use snake venom. And so you got a double whammy on your liver to begin with, and then this will come right on the heels of it. Yes, ma'am.
You said that around year I've been noticing, like, before they plant the crop, that the field's turning brown.
Yes.
And what they're using Roundup to kill everything before they plant.
Yes, they do.
This is the way they're supposed to do it.
Yes.
It saves money from plowing and
Yes,
stuff.
of course.
Environmentally,
I have a glyphosate antidote. And matter of fact, one of my projects is in Olympia, Washington. And not only do they have glyphosate in Puget Sound, but they have a ton of drugs in like pharmaceuticals as well as like cocaine and what have you, measurable amounts in Puget Sound. And it's killing all the aquatics. And so that's one of my projects, is to create antidotes and broadcast that to Puget Sound. You're welcome.
Do you think COVID was developed from smoking?
No, I do not. I do not. But I do think it's part of the perfect storm. But no, I don't feel like COVID was that at all. I think it was this electromagnetic deal that I'm looking at with the cardiopulmonary nerve, and then this sulfur thing, and the fertilizer thing. I think that but for some reason, whether it's the bump in resonance that it's becoming, it's kind of like, well, we listened on volume 10, but now the resonance is turned up to 50. Now it's serious. So you had a question? Okay. So be aware. If this shows up and you see low oxygen saturations and heart stuff along with it, you know that's what it is. Take it and chisel it in stone. Water toxicity, big time problem. Big time problem. Ended up that, anybody and their dog who had money in Louisiana in the 40s, 50s, somewhere in that time frame could dump anything they wanted. And so we had been having kind of a drought situation, and then we started getting rain. And so then it started coming up from the deep wells into these ponds. And so I had to do another round of antidotes to take care of it. And my guy, well, what was it? And I said, I don't care. Because if we would have tested and found out what it was, and he thought it was too bad to get rid of, then he would always go, well, did it really work? So that's why I don't answer that question, because people will focus on the negative and have to be drugged kicking and screaming to the positive. And I don't know why we're like that, but we are. So this was just the weirdest thing with sludge. Just showed up. So I created the antidote, broadcast for 48 hours, and this is what we had. And so we traced it back to artificial bait, because we could not get fresh fish bait. Now, I haven't had a chance. This was done right before I came. So, I forgot to pull the little tag. Out on the feed bag they have the tag that tells you what's in it? Because I'm just dying to get back and pull a tag and see what the heck was in there. But I bet you sulfur's in there. It surely does, because it's a small ion. So I want to show you this. Don't leave without seeing this, because this is dadgum cool. So I went out there after I had done the antidotes. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that. There we go. And I saw this with my eyeballs. And this is not a current, because you'll see the little crawfish on the top left. There's no current. And it was the energy moving under the water. Isn't that not the slickest thing? And I thought, well, I don't even know whether it'll video, but I'm sure going to try. And I went over the full 1,000 acres, and it was happening in every pond. Isn't that slick? I just love that kind of stuff. So lots of ground contamination issues. Who are my farmer ranchers in here? Anybody? All right, so, things that we've been working for, this is how we do it, right? It ain't working. And matter of fact, it's having opposite effects. Herbicides, pesticides, all of that. So I had to generate antidotes, and that's what we ended up with. It's exponential now. These are handy dandy dowsing, radionics, all of that. You got to have it in your toolbox. Absolutely have to have it in your toolbox. So if y'all have your evaluations,